Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Love Lens. We're back again with another episode of the Bridgerton series. This time we are recording this after both parts are out of season 3, so it gives a little bit more context to everything, a little bit more rounding to the season, which I absolutely love, and I am looking forward to just unpicking things a little bit more. So this season was based on Colin and Penelope's story, which is based off of the book Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, which was the 4th book in the series, but was kind of like pushed up in the production of the TV show. So this episode is basically just talking about the two individuals and also the dynamics that they have within their relationship. So the first person I want to speak about is Colin. From the parenting episode that we did, which I will link here, we did in the first episode of this series on Love Lens, we established that Violet had a very secure kind of attachment with her children. And we see this also with Colin's reactions to connecting with people. He was very much himself when he got into romantic relationships. He didn't try to change himself, and he started to understand. The first time we see him making a romantic connection within the show is in season 1, and it is with Penelope's cousin, who has been brought from the farm to come and live with them because she's pregnant, but no one knows she's pregnant, so they're trying to marry her off so that she can still save name to the family. So now we have Mr. Bridgerton meeting up with her and recognizing that she's being pushed off to different suitors who aren't really suitable for her, who are much older, and he sees an opportunity to kind of save her when she's dancing with someone and realizes she needs someone to kind of step in for her and protect her. So he's still finding out that he doesn't know that he wants to be married this season in season 1, but he just knows that he's open to getting to know people and seeing where things go. And in that season we see him falling head over heels for her and just kind of rushing the process of I just want to be with this woman kind of thing, and he's being pulled by the fact that he's attracted to her. It's more lust than it is love, but because he sees the sensitive part of people, he tends to lead with that. He sees the good in people, so he tends to go with the initial, okay, I see this person as this, but never really evaluates the risk of how that situation is gonna help him, because he trusts people, which is signs of a secure attachment as well. You just trust what people tell you rather than you having to go digging and forging for information. You kind of just go with, okay, this person says this, I believe this, and I feel like this, so this must be true. Until someone gives me a reason not to believe that, I'm not going to not believe that. So we see his secure attachment get him into a situation with someone who is being deceitful and trying to hide their situation. We know that I've forgotten her name, but the cousin isn't really in love with him, but she needs to cover up this secret, so she is going to do what she needs to do in order to cover it up. But on the outside of it all, Penelope sees that this is a situation, this is not right. He needs to know, he needs to be informed that he's getting himself into much more than he's being exposed to at the moment. So she tries to tell Colin, but Colin's kind of like, yeah, no, yeah, and it's fine, like kind of just brushes it off, but she doesn't really get to tell him the full detail. So he ends up finding out through Lady Whistledown and then being embarrassed about the whole situation. In that scenario, we see how he then internalizes that as, oh my gosh, like, this is a situation. I need to do more for me. I need to learn me. I don't know much about myself. I'm too trusting. So decides at the end of season 1 to go away, traveling, and just explore. Just explore and get to know himself a little bit more, which when he comes back in season 2, he tells Penelope that he's been away and he enjoyed her writing to him and they were in constant communication together, and they were in communication together, and he comes back and he realizes he doesn't want to get involved with women. Like, he just wants to kind of feel who he is within society and kind of go with that flow rather than trying to find any sort of means or anything. And when he does come back, we do see him we see him comfortable in just being himself around people. But we start to see towards the end of the season that he's still being influenced by other people around him. When after he had a dance with Penelope, he's asked and questioned, oh, are you courting Penelope? And he says, no, I could never court her. Are you mad? And Penelope overhears this. So we come back to season 3 and he's gone away again, come back. Less people have been writing to him, and he started to realize that he needs to kind of be the image that society wants him to be, rather than just being himself, because being himself has caused him heartache from season 1, and it's also caused him to lose some friends. But we've kind of seen how the second part of him losing friends wasn't really him, but it was just his interpretation of the whole situation. And then we go into season 3 where he's comes in with this bravado of who he thinks people want him to be, and he's called out by Lady Whistledown and doesn't really like that, because she sees right through him, because Lady Whistledown is Penelope, and Penelope knows Colin for who he is and how he is as a person, and what he was presenting and what he was showing was two different things. So that kind of gives like a little bit of a synopsis of who Colin is. He's grown up in a really nice nurturing household, being able to express himself how he wanted to within his household, but outside of the household there's also blocks like society and pressures of society that has kind of informed him to try and adapt and change to what society wants him to be. So he's still figuring out himself within that context, even though he grew up in a secure home. So I think sometimes we kind of think, oh, because someone's grown up in a secure home, they should have all their eggs in like a row. But sometimes it takes like time to figure out where your place is, where you feel like you best belong, and trying to navigate through those things. So in this case, we see that conflict between me as a person and being accepted within my tribe, but I also want to be accepted by other people outside of my home. So how do I adapt to that? So we learn that kind of understanding of secure attachment as well, which is human. We're humans. We all want to belong to a system. We all want to feel like we're not the odd ones out, but still feel protected within society. Because the reason we want belonging is protection and just to feel like we're part of something and contributing to something. And then we have Penelope. Penelope. I think from the very first season, we have seen her being dissed by her mom, her sister, her, like, all those people around her. The only place you could see her actually enjoy being herself was when she was at the Bridgerton household with Eloise, just having fun. And then we see her in her own household where it feels like she's being attacked because she's the reader, she's the quiet one, she likes to be in her head a lot, she's very intelligent for the people around her, so they try to minimize her. So because of this environment that she's grown up in and feeling like she's imprisoned, she feels like she doesn't have a voice, which leads her to creating this persona who is Lady Whistledown, and ends up just being the gossip of the town, but doing it in a way that no one knows who she is, but she's still being funny and quirky and clever with her words, but still being in the background, so no one knows who she is. And she's kind of comfortable being in the background because it means that she's not being picked at or criticized for either her weight or the way she reads or her being quiet or anything that makes her different and makes her. So she likes to just stay in the background to observe all these things and then come back to a place of, okay, I live in this world, this is this world here, but I can create my own world within this world, which she's doing with Lady Whistledown. And throughout the season, so season 1, we see her interacting with her cousin, who is also courting Colin, who she loves. So it's a bit of a love triangle, but Colin doesn't even know it's a love triangle because she's never professed feelings towards him because she felt like she wasn't good enough for him. And then we have the jealousy coming out in ways of her trying to warn Colin, of her trying to put her cousin off the situation and deter her to other people rather than Colin, and just forcing ways in order to kind of split them up. In one scene, we see her even telling Colin, like, you've always said you wanted to travel, so maybe when you come back from traveling, then you guys can explore this. So also putting his desires in front of him rather than him being blinded by the relationship that he was forming with her cousin. And then we have when it all collapses and Colin is kind of still talking to it collapses and Colin speaks to Penelope and thanks her for being a friend and always being there to kind of like support. And the cousin does tell Colin, like, you've got something in front of you that you don't see, because she knew that Penelope loved Colin after she had worked it out, after everything had been exposed, she had worked it out that no, you like him, that's why you don't meet with him. So she kind of points it out, like, to Colin, but Colin doesn't get the hint that there is a romantic relationship that Penelope desires for him, but she kind of puts it down and kind of leaves it. So she's then shipped off at the end of season 1, and then we have just Colin and Penelope, and Colin goes off traveling, comes back, but when he comes back we find out that they are talking, they're writing to each other quite often. And Colin also comes back and says he is sworn off woman. He just wants to kind of get to know himself a little bit more now and get into a season where, okay, this is him. So I think in season 2 we don't really see much of Colin's, we don't see much of his character being developed. We just see him trying to work out how he's gonna fit within society, knowing that there's parts of him that he still needs to figure out. And I think one part of that was how he is around other men and what masculinity means in that society. And I think he was very confused because he grew up in a very safe and secure place, so felt very comfortable with his feelings, but it seemed like every time he was to express his feelings, it used to get shut down, and he used to end up feeling embarrassed about it. As we can see in this situation, it kind of made him feel less than as a man, which we start to see play out in season 3 when he's back from traveling. We see in season 3 he's trying to create this persona of him being like this macho, like charming, like free-flowing kind of guy, and not too like sensitive and too empathetic to other people. And in this place we can start to see how he gets the attention that he wants from women, but then we can see that when he does end up with Penelope, or end up in a relationship, or being pursuing someone, he starts to question if this persona is like what he needs to be bringing into that relationship with Penelope, because we know Penelope liked him for who he was. It wasn't the bravado that he had put on that was called out at the beginning of season 3 by Miss Whistledown, that she was entrapped with. But we see them go through this journey of him trying to help her, because he feels like he knows what men want, because he's also trained over the summer how to be a man and what men should be looking for. So if he's learned that, he can teach her to help her find what men are looking for. But whilst he's doing that, he's also pulling out the voice that she already has around men, because she's always had that voice with Colin, but because there's now pressure of marriage, pressure of society looking at us, and all of these pressures, she's kind of like, there's too much pressure that the pressure's kind of suppressing her voice to who she is as a woman in society. Even though when she's Mrs. Whistledown, she has a huge voice and huge power for her voice. But within her being the persona of Penelope, she loses her voice. So we're trying to see, we see two parts of Penelope in different outlets. So we see one outlet of her just being the small, shy, timid girl in her family, and then we see another part of her, which is the brave, like quirky, clever with words, like funny, humorous side of her, showing up in the Lady Whistledown part. And throughout the season in part 2, we see her trying to suppress that part of her, and the more we watch, the more we realize actually her suppressing that part of her was actually like breaking her down. It wasn't empowering her. It wasn't giving her the power that she had anymore. Like she was being suffocated a little bit and not being able to express how she wasn't able to express how she felt about society and how she felt as a woman and how she wanted to be as a woman. So when she had the opportunity to write another Lady Whistledown segment, we see the joy in her eyes just writing the paper in the carriage, and we see her kind of come alive again, and we see that even that passion that she had outside of her relationship was even being kind of cultivated within the relationship with her and Colin, because you could see that she was being herself, even though he didn't know that that was her. She had something outside of the relationship to focus her energy into, so the relationship wouldn't feel so suffocated. And Colin, we find out in season 3, part 1, we find out that he is also a writer, and he enjoys writing, and that's probably why they're both kind of like kindred spirits, because they kind of, you see them, her reading his work and being like, wow, this is actual, like, this is good writing. And then you see him reading her letters, and we see him getting excited by that writing, and she was also getting excited by that writing. So they have a way with words, and I think throughout this season with those two, we could see a real strong sense of words, and how powerful words are in this season. And I think one thing that made me realize, okay, their love languages are words of affirmation, was you could see when both of them were encouraged with their writing, how much it gave them like some sort of feeling of love within themselves, which you could see visibly in their body language. You could see that they felt appreciated for their work and their words. So it wasn't even just in their writing, but also like when Colin tells Penelope that she's like the most smartest and beautiful woman that he knows, and like she's the best in her family. You could see her start to believe in herself, believe in who she is as a woman in her household, and how she brings her essence to her family, and brings, like, uplifts the family dynamic in that sense. So we see that happening. So I would say their love language as a couple, both of them thrive off of words of affirmation and then physical touch, as you could see in the carriage scene and also in the mirror scene. Very, very steamy scenes, but we could see that their passion in their relationship had been ignited. We first see a glimpse of this passion when Penelope asks Colin to kiss her in the first part of season 3, and Colin's then awoken to who he, like, how the dynamic of the relationship is between them, and how much he actually likes her. So I think for a long time Colin liked Penelope, but he didn't see it as a romantic fit because of what society said a romantic fit should look like. And I think when he had that kiss, he started to question his idea of what a romantic fit is. So that's when he started asking his mom about, like, you said friendship was the best start to a romantic relationship, and started to explore that option as well. Whereas with his sister Daphne and with Anthony, you could see both of them were very passionate starts. So for him, I think he was also looking for a passionate start, which we saw in season 1 with Penelope's cousin, who we could see that he was physically attracted to her, so wanted to get to know her more because of that passion, like the lust in that passion. Yeah, it wasn't really passion, more lust in that lust. So he saw that as, oh, they were all attracted to their partners, so maybe I'm attracted to her, so maybe that's love. But not really understanding what love is to him and how it could show up in different ways for different people. So that was a very interesting dynamic between the two of them. And even when you're seeing him helping her, we can see there is a need. But then we get to the point where he knows he likes her, she likes him, and they're engaged at this point, and he finds out that she's Lady Whistledown. So there's a part of her that's been exposed, and now he's scared that he's not good enough again, because this woman is now a published writer. I have never published anything. I have never showed anyone, and her stumbling on my journal was even too much for me. But it inspired me to want to think about that path of taking that path and writing a memoir. But found himself outside of society, but when he came into society, felt like he was still suffocated by society, so he couldn't be himself the way he was when he was on travels. So I think that's the difference between him and Penelope. Penelope, because she was finding herself in another way within society, she ends up kind of breaking through that shell that she had of being the wallflower, and now she's in a position where she's been able to penetrate those barriers, and we see it like in the season 1. We see her in a really nice floral, a really orange, yellow dress with a flower on it. But then in season 3, right at the end, in the last scene, we see the butterflies, and I feel like the whole season we've just kind of seen her coming out of her shell. We've seen her unfolding who she is within society and how that has been unpicked. So it's very, very, very interesting to see how two people are going through similar, trying to find themselves within society. One person feels like they can do it in their own space, and grow in their own space, but do it in a way that is expressing their feelings and thoughts outwardly, and slowly trying to merge the two parts of her together. It takes time before she gets there, but she's trying to close the gap between her as Mrs. Whistledown and her as Penelope. And then we have Colin, who feels like he needs to exit society in order to find himself, but every time he comes back into society, he's finding it hard to bring that part of himself into society. So I think them being together ends up encouraging Colin to start being comfortable in himself, in order for him to see, like, Penelope is Mrs. Whistledown. Even though it's two personas, she's one person, and she's being accepted for that. At first, she got a lot of slack for it, but now she's being accepted for being Penelope and Mrs. Whistledown. Being Penelope and Mrs. Whistledown, but now she is Penelope, who everyone knows as Mrs. Whistledown. So that part of her is still alive. So him being Colin, he can still be Colin, a Bridgerton, but still be Colin, a writer, or Colin, someone who loves to explore language. But I think because he hasn't been used to doing it, he was very scared to even test it. Whereas Penelope was like, I have nothing to lose, because one, I'm a woman, and like we don't have much purpose other than being a housewife and a mother. So if I can create an identity of myself outside of this and create an idea of who I think I am outside of this world, maybe I can say that I at least tried that before becoming a mum or before becoming a wife, which she did. And now that she is a wife and a mother at the end of season 3, we can see that she's also an editor, because she helped Colin also come out of himself and write his memoir and publish the memoir. So it's kind of like she's become a full version of herself by just being herself and accepting that me being myself within this environment is me being myself. So it's accepted and it's okay. And it might take some time for people to fully accept me, but at least I've accepted me, and the people who love me accept me for who I am. Because even when Colin didn't find out, he was upset that he didn't know, but it didn't stop him from seeing how Lady Whistledown and Penelope were the same person, just presented in 2 different ways. So through this season, we've kind of seen 2 people finding themselves and finding love at the same time. There was a love for self and also a love for each other, and being able to just sit in like loving yourself. Because at one point Penelope was happy to be married to someone out of love, but still being able to love herself and being able to publish her Lady Whistledown segments, because she was secure in her own love. But then she realized she didn't want to settle for that, so she ended up being very transparent to Colin about where she stood with like his involvement in the situation with the guy that she was going to marry, and how she felt like he was blocking her blessing from still being herself. And herself was what got her that man in the first place. So it's very interesting to see how you being yourself in your space can also encourage other people to be themselves. And I think I said this in the Montrich's video. Yeah, the Montrich's video, that sometimes the more we stay as who we've been called to be, the easier it is for other people to relax into who they are as well. And it's very encouraging to see that there's now a storyline where people are just happy to be themselves within relationship, and it's in relationship with themselves. And now that relationship with themselves has also created a relationship, a romantic relationship with other people, because people see them for who they are rather than who they are presenting themselves to be. So we see in this season, though, relationships tend to be questioned in this season. They tend to be they tend to come from different angles rather than just passion. There's the relationship of commitment, there's a relationship of passion, there's a relationship of friendship. And I think all 3 of those aspects together make the love triangle of true love. But I think a lot of people settle for just one side of that triangle, either friendship and commitment, or either friendship and passion but no real commitment. Some people settle for commitment and passion but no friendship. So there's different aspects to love, but I think sometimes in order to find all 3 of those things, you have to know yourself well enough to know what you're willing to commit to, what you're passionate about, and the kind of values that you have that attract you to your friends, because those values are the things that are probably going to hold that friendship. And yeah, the more I watch these kinds of shows, the more I realize love isn't so straightforward, and it's really about loving yourself and understanding yourself within context of where you are, and how that can help you grow and help you develop into the kind of person that you want to be. So on that note, guys, I am going to love and leave you for another week. And if you guys have any shows that you want me to review or look into or talk about, please feel free to put in the comments and we can chat about that and just see how best I can serve you guys, because that's what I'm here for. As I said in the first season, I'm trying to just create a space for us to all learn about love and relationships in a safe and comfortable place where no question's a dumb question and life is lifing, but we can still use these opportunities to kind of learn and grow. So on that note, guys, I will see you all next week. Have a lovely week and take care, guys. Bye.